Hey guys, I'm super amped that everybody's here. This is crazy. I can't believe this many people are into bro science. But it's really cool. And so the whole thing originated because people kept coming up to me and asking me what they need to eat in these different cases. And we do these one-on-one consults with new members, and everybody's super interested in food. And Anders and I sit around and talk about this stuff all the time upstairs at Cass. I don't know what you guys think goes on there. There's a whole lot of Anders and I sitting upstairs talking about bro science as it relates to training or nutrition. And so I figured it would be pretty cool to give you guys a little bit of insight into some of the things that I've learned, some of the things that I've tried over the past years. And as I wrote in the write-up, I have now been training in a weight room for over 18 years, which is stupid long. We train lacrosse kids and high school team, and they're not even 18 yet. So there's a little bit of information that I've kind of accrued over the years, and some of it worked, some of it didn't work, but hopefully you guys can benefit from some of the lessons that I've gone through. And as the word bro science indicates, there isn't a whole lot of real science going on here. A lot of what I've learned, has been a result of reading science that then I've implemented, but I definitely cannot cite any studies, and I do not intend to. So it's all the kind of information that I've taken and kind of bastardized it into what you're going to hear today. So I'm going to kind of break this thing down into 3 different categories: weight loss, weight gain, and performance. Performance would probably be most of my CrossFitters. In most cases, you performance folks should probably align yourselves with the weight gain group, because most of the prescriptions are pretty similar. Even if the goal is not to gain weight, the need for performance is driven by a surplus of calories. So therefore, I think that in most cases you'll find that those 2 objectives align pretty well. Over on the left of the board here, I know you guys have no chance of being able to see this, so I'll go over these terms as well. But I put a list of kind of some terms and acronyms that I'm going to be using throughout this thing, so for y'all's benefit, I'll just go over it real quick. The first one at the top is BMR, basal metabolic rate. That's basically refers to the amount of calories that you would burn if you did nothing but lay in your bed all day long and all night long. So it's your base level of calories with 0 movement. EPOC. It's so weird that that acronym is EPOC because it actually stands for post-exercise oxygen consumption. I guess POC doesn't really flow as well, but that refers to the amount of calories that you're going to burn after you complete your exercise. And the way that it kind of is affected on different forms of exercise is pretty interesting. The next one is NEAT. This is a pretty new acronym that I actually just learned in the last couple of years, but it's very relevant specifically for weight loss. And that stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So non-exercise, that basically means anything that you're not doing for the purpose of exercise or burning calories. It refers to anything from lifting your arm to scratch your head, to walking to the bathroom, to typing at work or driving your car. All of these things all are part of NEAT. And that's an important category of calories that are burned throughout the day that you don't really think about. The next term up there is peri-workout, P-E-R-I-workout. That refers to the period 90 minutes before your workout, the hour period during your workout, and the 90-minute period post-workout. So it's a 4-hour window called peri-workout. And then I also broke down at the bottom, I think most of you guys probably know this already, but fat, protein, and carbs collectively are called macronutrients. Fat has 9 calories per gram, whereas protein and carbs each have 4 calories per gram. So a lot of people look at that right off the bat and their first thought is, well, I should probably not eat that much fat if I want to lose weight. But I think that most of us probably know now that that's not necessarily true. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. So as we get into this, kind of continuing with these basics here, Nutrition quantity is the main focus as far as whether you want to gain weight or lose weight. There's 3 other categories that I'm going to block nutrition into as well that are important to consider, but the total amount of food that you eat, the total calories consumed, is the most important one. I guess it's important also that I note that these recommendations that I'm going to talk about today are strictly in regards to body composition, whether you gain weight or lose weight or maintain weight. It has nothing to do with your overall health. So, you know, you can mistake that sometimes, and I'll kind of give a couple examples of this as we go along, but just keep that in mind. If anybody would like to calculate your BMR, and you have your cell phones with you, this is the best, most accurate site that I've found. I've tried like 4 or 5 of them. BMRcalculator.org. You put in your height, your weight, your age, and it shoots you back approximately how many calories you burn. Now, it's also important to keep in mind that most of these BMR calculators are designed for somebody that has a relatively low body fat percentage. And you got to keep in mind that muscle burns more calories than fat. So if you happen to be a fat person and your BMR tells you that you're burning 2,000 calories a day, you're probably not burning that many calories because fat is not metabolic. If you're extremely muscled and the BMR calculator tells you that you're burning 2,000 calories a day, it's possible that you might be burning slightly more than that. In most cases, I think you guys will find that your BMR number is somewhere between body weight times 9 to 10, somewhere in that range as a general estimate. If anybody's doing it right now and finds that they're not within that 9 to 10 times body weight range, I'd be curious what your number is. Also, feel free to raise your hand and ask questions at any point throughout this thing. I'm going to have a lot of opportunity at the end to answer some questions too. So, using me as an example, for my BMR, I apparently burn 1,841 calories a day if I did nothing but lay in bed. So, that's my base level. When we go to lose weight, weight loss depends entirely on creating a calorie deficit. So as we think about how we're going to create a calorie deficit, there's a couple things that we need to add up along the way. So the first step is, if this is my BMR, I need to also calculate my NEAT, my exercise and my NEAT. So I've determined that I burn about 400 calories a day in the weight room. That's for a 45 to 60 minute session. These numbers are all going to be kind of generic. It could be a little bit higher, a little bit lower. I also walk. And because I walk for the form of exercise and not as part of NEAT, it's not non-exercise, I walk as a form of exercise, I'm going to count that. So that's 300 calories. And then I also have to estimate my NEAT. And I've determined, as a result of all the classes that I run and kind of walking up and down stairs and cleaning up weights after people and whatever all sorts of other weird movement that I get throughout the day, that my NEAT number is about 400 calories. On some days it's probably a little bit more, but everything contributes, right? Like I said, even like lifting your arm up to scratch your head might burn like a quarter of a calorie. And if you do that a bunch of times, they start adding up. So as we're going through and determining my number, there's 1,100 additional calories that I burn throughout an average day. And that puts my maintenance calories at 2,941. So we'll just call that 3,000 for the sake of making things easy. So on my daily life, my daily, weekly kind of schedule, I burn 3,000 calories a day. Now, if my goal, actually, hold on, let's go backtrack a little bit. So, as I was talking earlier, there is 4 different areas that I'm going to focus on for importance, and there's an order, a hierarchy order of the importance that these things rank if your goal is to gain weight or lose weight or change your body composition. So, the first one, most important, total calories. The next most important is your macronutrient breakdown. So that would be how you arrange your consumption of protein, carbs, and fat throughout the day. The third most important, and this kind of could be interchangeable with the fourth as well. I think it kind of depends on the individual, but I put food timing at number 3, when you eat your food. And then number 4 is food quality. Now remember that I said in the beginning that this is not about overall health. This is about changing your body composition. And when you're talking about changing your body composition, total calories and macronutrients, and food timing for that matter, are probably a little more important than food quality. But we'll get into that a little bit more as we go along. So, to promote weight loss or weight gain, about 300 to 800 calories above or below this number, the 3,000 calorie number. So you have to take, remember, you have to take your BMR and add in your exercise and your walking and your NEAT and all that cool stuff. And I ended up with that 3,000 number. So if I wanted to gain weight or lose weight, I would want to manipulate that number by 300 to 800 calories. On the lower end, it would be 300, would take me down to 2,700 if I wanted to lose weight, or up to 3,300 if I wanted to gain weight. On the higher end, obviously, it would be 2,200 calories, which I can never, ever do. I've tried to eat 2,200 a day, and I was ravenous and ate another 800 right before bed. It's not possible to eat 2,200 calories at my size. So I would not try to lose weight that fast. And on the flip side, it's really easy for me to eat 3,800 calories. That's just like, if I don't think about what I'm eating, I'll eat 3,800 calories just because. So I actually have to kind of be cognizant of what I'm eating and make sure that I'm not exceeding too much higher than 3,000 on a daily basis, or I do start to see that kind of scale weight creep up a little bit. It's important to keep in mind as well that you cannot out-exercise a bad diet. I think at some point in life we've all tried this, but depending on the size of your slice of pizza that you might eat, that's about 300 calories. I work out for 45 to 60 minutes banging weights for 400 calories. And how many of you think I only eat one slice of pizza when I eat pizza? So that's something that I had to learn over time, is that you cannot out-exercise a bad diet. Even if your goal is to gain weight, it's really easy to exceed that 300 to 800 calorie range that I prescribed and have you go way over that, because all you have to do is eat 2.5 extra pieces of pizza on top of your maintenance calories, and suddenly you're at the 800 number, right? So very important to understand that. What you're gonna find if you go too high on that, say your goal is like, I'm gonna gain weight so fast and I'm gonna go 1,500 calories above, or I'm gonna lose weight super fast and I'm gonna go 1,500 calories below. Well, obviously if you go below, you're gonna be really moody and miserable and no one's gonna wanna be around you. But beyond that, what's gonna happen is you're gonna lose a lot of muscle. And the opposite occurs if you're trying to increase your calories too much. You're gonna gain a lot of fat. Yes, you're gonna gain muscle, it's gonna be awesome, you're gonna be really strong, but you're also gonna gain some fat. So that's why I prescribe that 300 to 800 number. My favorite is to start at 500. Whatever your maintenance level is, if you drop or add 500 calories in nutrition in each day for a week, that equals 1 pound. So 1 pound of fat has 3,500 calories. That's some real science. And so if you did cut 500 calories every day for 7 days, you would burn 1 pound of fat. And that's a pretty safe way of doing it without having to worry about losing muscle as well. So let's go into some recommendations of how we should put all this together and get some results.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
What are you doing to track your calories? Like, what are you eating?
You said what am I eating, or what am I using to track? I use Excel. But I think that this is one of the things I was going to talk about later, but it's easy to develop a neurosis if you're constantly writing this stuff down. And I've gone through this throughout my years of being around. Like, I went through a 2 or 3 year period in college or post-college where I tried to write everything down all the time because it was the only thing I could do to hold myself accountable. If I didn't write it down and I didn't have to look at it and like acknowledge to myself that I really fucked up and I ate way too much that day or whatever, then, you know, I was gonna go overeat. So I developed a bit of a neurosis about this, and now I've reached a point where I don't have to write it down because I know just kind of inherently what the caloric content is of the things I'm putting into my body. But I do think that it's extremely important if you do decide that you want to institute some of these changes to change your body comp. I think you should write stuff down for 1 to 2 months. Everything. The food you eat, the protein, the carbs, the fat. Calculate your total calories based on the 9-4-4, 9 calories for fat, 4 for each of the others. Break down the percentages as well. This is what I'm about to talk about, is kind of what are the percentage breakdowns that we want, how many of each macronutrient do we want. And I think that doing it for a month or two is a short enough time that you're not going to develop a neurosis about it, but long enough that you're going to gain an understanding of what you're putting into your body and how it's affecting you. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think I just like, what I struggle with is, you know, like I go eat like a bowl of Chipotle and I'm like, well shit, I just say, I have no idea what's in that, you know, I just.
Oh yeah, so it's easy to know what's in that. Chipotle.com has a calculator and you check boxes. You say, I had 1 serving of chicken, 1 serving of rice, 1 serving of guac, and then it shoots you back this caloric content with protein, carbs, and fat.
There's an app for it too.
MyFitnessPal and Spark People are 2 good apps to use.
Okay.
MyFitnessPal and Spark People are 2 reasonably reliable apps to use that are on your phone.
Awesome. Science. Okay. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about losing weight first, and then we'll progress into the performance and weight gain side of things. So, for me, we determined that I am 3,000 calories for maintenance. I'm going to take a conservative route, and I'm only going to try and cut my calories down to 2,700. This is what I'm actually doing right now. This is what I've done for the past 4 weeks. It's been extremely successful. I've lost about 7 to 9 pounds depending on the day and how much water I'm retaining. And I think that I have not lost much muscle either. I guess we'll find out. But this is what I've done, is cut myself down to about 2,700 calories. Some days are 25 to 26, some days are 29 or 3,000, but I probably average about 2,700. And this is the exact prescription that I am using to reach my 2,700 calories. So, I believe that for weight loss, the best way to do it without sacrificing muscle is 33, 33, 33. That's 33% of each macronutrient. Precisely even. So what does that come out to for me? That comes out to 225 grams of protein, 100 grams of fat, and 225 grams of carbs. So this 225 protein is 900 calories, 100 grams of fat is 900 calories, and 225 grams of carbs is 900 calories. I'm usually within 10 to 20 grams of each of those on any given day. So I've gotten it down to a pretty good understanding of what I need to consume at what points of the day to be able to hit those numbers, and I just do it every day. If your goal was to gain weight, my suggestion would be, as I was saying, to increase calories slightly. So instead of 2,700, based off my maintenance number, we're going to go with 3,400. I'm going to up it 400 just because it makes the math easy for the next part. We're not going to talk about the percentages quite yet. I'm just going to give you the numbers. So we're going to keep protein the exact same. So that equals 900 calories. We're going to keep fat the exact same. So that equals 900 calories. So how many grams of carbs do I need to get myself to 3,400 if I have 1,800 right there? 1,600. And how many grams of carbs is that? 400. So all I would do to gain weight instead of lose weight is manipulate my carbohydrate. Carbohydrates are what are going to provide us with energy, right? That's why I keep lumping the weight gain category and the performance category into the same group, because the same carbohydrates that you need to gain weight in creating a caloric surplus are the same calories that you're going to need for performance to make sure that you have enough energy to peak your workouts. Yes, ma'am?
Why would you not use fat?
Because for most of those people that are trying to gain weight, especially the performance folks, they are working out generally more because you have a caloric surplus, you have more energy. You're generally going to be working out more, and the carbs provide you with instant energy and instant recovery. They're digested quicker, and
The fat's not readily available.
the fat's not readily available, as Jen
And
specifically.
with the carbs, you'll load the liver
I
up
was
with
just asking
glycogen.
sorry.
Yep.
I'm good.
Okay. Cool. But yeah, the carbs are readily available for performance, for working out, especially because we find that with most performance people, they're generally working out more than once a day. So you're going to have to load up your carbs to supply you with the energy for that. I feel like the fat is more of a satiating thing, and the fat is something that I think being a higher percentage for the weight loss diet is much better because it's going to keep you full longer. And when you're trying for performance or weight gain, sometimes you just need to eat food, and carbs are going to be a little bit less filling for that. So we've covered, of the 4 nutrition areas, we've covered total calories consumed and we've covered the macronutrient breakdown. So now we can talk a little bit about food timing. And the first issue as it goes with food timing that I want to discuss is peri-workout. So peri-workout nutrition is that 90-minute period before, the hour during, and the 90 minutes after. You generally want to consume, if you're on a weight loss plan, you want 60 to 70% of your carbohydrates for the day, probably closer to that 70% number, to be within that peri-workout area. There's a whole lot of new stuff coming out on intra-workout nutrition as well, which would be that area specifically during your workout. But generally you would want, as I was saying, 60 to 70% of those carbs to be right either before, during, and after your day. So if you're looking at me and I have 225 carbs to use, say I want 150 of them to be around my workout. So I might have like a pre-workout meal of beef and rice or something like that 90 minutes before my workout. And then during the workout, I'm constantly sipping on this new drink that I've been using that I'll discuss later. It's a protein carb mix. And then post-workout, I have another serving of the protein carb mix drink. And then 60 minutes later, I eat another full meal, generally with rice, potatoes, meats, veggies, and all that good stuff. So it's important that the carbohydrates are utilized during that time. Now I get a lot of, okay, let me backtrack a second. For the weight loss people, it's really important that you not try to eat within 3 to 4 hours of bedtime. Because specifically for weight loss purposes, a lot of that food is just gonna sit there and kind of store as excess calories in your body that you don't need or use for that period of time. However, the one caveat to that is if you work out in the evening, peri-workout nutrition supersedes that prior statement about not eating before bed. That's how important the peri-workout is. It's important for recovery, it's important for progress, for muscle rebuilding, and for a consistent anabolic state for your body. So peri-workout nutrition always supersedes any other guidelines that I may say throughout this lecture. And the first one being not eating before bed if your goal is weight loss. So I said not eating for about 3 hours before bed. And for weight loss people, I would also say not eating carbs within 5 hours of bed. But that's relatively easy if I'm eating 150 of my 225 grams of carbs around my workout, which takes place at like 2 p.m. Then I'll have some more carbs in my second post-workout meal, and then it's relatively easy to stay strong with fat and protein throughout the evening time as well, because at least you get to keep eating. I personally have not stuck to that guideline of not eating 3 to 4 hours before bed, mostly because I don't sleep well when I'm hungry, and I know other people are that way too. So if you are trying to lose weight, just try to minimize the carbs as close to bed as possible. So then, oh yeah, also, if you're going for weight loss, you gotta stay away from getting calories from liquid unless it's during the peri-workout period. Milk, beer, sodas, juices, all that stuff, no good for weight loss because it doesn't fill you up at all. It's calories without filling you up. It's usually got more of a place in the weight gain diet, but I'm not a huge fan of liquid calories anyways, unless they're during the workout. For the weight gain and performance people, you have a lot more leeway as far as what you're gonna eat and all that good stuff. So you just wanna focus on having balanced meals throughout the day and working toward getting to these numbers, which, by the way, I never ended up going over this, but it ends up being 26.5% for fat and protein and 46% for carbs. So all we did was keep the protein and fat stable, and we upped the total carb number, and that took it from 33% to 46%. Like that math doesn't work, does it? It was 47, I think. Okay, either way. Yeah, so for my weight gain people, you want to consume even more carbs around your workouts too. You have more carbs to work with. You have a whole ton more. You have almost double. So during those pre, mid, and post-workout times, saturate your body with that stuff. Yes?
So assuming that you had enough carbohydrates to sustain the workouts when you were just maintaining your same body weight, you're talking about them as if when you're weight gain, you want to increase them, but you didn't need them before for your workouts. So kind of back to what Margo was talking about, why wouldn't you want to substitute those carbohydrates with something that would have like a lower glycemic response, like fat or protein or something that would be more satiating?
Well, because your workout performance was not ideal when you were trying to lose weight. There's no possible...
I'm just saying like middle, you're just maintaining.
What?
Just maintaining, like you're just maintaining your weight.
If you're maintaining weight?
Yeah, so would you recommend that carbohydrate?
I still think that carbohydrates need to bracket the workouts as much as possible.
Oh, I just meant the percentage of the calories you're consuming throughout the day compared to fat or protein.
I would say if you're maintaining weight, then your carbohydrate percentage would go slightly down, which would bring up your protein and carb percentage slightly. If I were to take me down to maintenance from 2,700 or 3,400, and I were to take the 3,400 number and move me back to maintenance, I would get rid of them from carbs, and I would keep my protein and fat numbers the same at 225 and 100, and I would just lower the carb number.
Okay.
Oh, so if you were doing the 3,000, so then what would your percentages look like?
If I was just trying to maintain.
So I understood what the percentages would be. My only question was is if you had enough carbohydrates, let's say just enough grams of carbohydrates to sustain your workouts when you were doing maintenance. I know that weight gain is obviously, let's say you're doing 2 workouts a day, you might be doing a ton of workouts. Why would you then need more carbohydrates to sustain those same amount?
Well, when you're more carbohydrates are going to provide you with better recovery and more energy for your workouts. So when you say if you're doing maintenance, you're having X number of carbohydrates, I would challenge you to try eating more carbohydrates around your workouts and see if your workouts feel a bit better. They may or may not. The thing is with this is it's all individual. Like I had stated in the beginning of the lecture, this is from what has worked for me, not based on any sort of science. So this is what works for me, this is what I found work, this is how I've manipulated my macronutrients, and it's an individual process where everybody has to kind of go through the grinder and come out the other side and kind of learn a lesson about how their body is affected by the same type of stuff as well. Yeah?
How much would you vary like the macronutrient profile if you're following like CrossFit versus like a bodybuilding workout?
I would call performance the CrossFit style, where I'm saying it's more of like this approach, the weight gain approach. because you're working out generally with CrossFit either a little bit more strenuously or a little bit harder more often than you would be in the bodybuilding program. I think that for the bodybuilding program, following a maintenance level calorie is probably a really good place to start. And then you can kind of take a feel of what the scale and what your body feels like and your workouts feel like throughout the next 3 to 4 weeks. Maybe keep notes on it, journal it a little bit, and from there you can manipulate variables. Like maybe I need a little more carbs, maybe I don't need quite as many carbs, maybe I need a little more protein, maybe a little more fat, whatever it is. But yeah, I would say the maintenance level is definitely a little bit better because your workouts, as hard as they are, they're not as metabolic. The most metabolic we get is the sprint day or supersetting stuff. And even when you superset stuff, you're working out for like a minute and a half at a time versus like a 20-minute AMRAP. One important thing though I think is really cool about in reference to that is Erica Rossetti. I think most of you guys know her. She's one of the coaches here, but she has one of those new snazzy smartwatches that tracks your calories that you burn while you exercise and all throughout the day, throughout your movement and stuff like that. And she found that on the day that we did hill sprints, that she only burned 160 calories while doing the 8 half hill sprints. We did half hills, so it wasn't quite as long. She only burned 160 calories in like 16 or 20 minutes of doing it. But then in the walk back from the hill to the gym and then hanging out and talking afterwards, just in the next like 20 minutes, she burned like another 150 calories. So that all goes into that EPOC effect, post-exercise oxygen consumption, where your heart rate is so elevated that you're burning calories at a much higher rate. And that's the beauty of interval training in general, whether it's CrossFit or sprinting or lifting weights, all of the start-stop stuff. It keeps your heart rate elevated and you're essentially burning calories at almost the same pace as while you were exercising. So then on the flip side, Erica also did that same test on a day where she like went for a 20-minute run, and she found out that she burned basically a couple more calories than she burned doing 20 minutes of hill sprints. But as soon as she stopped running, she stopped burning calories at a higher rate. It went back to like whatever the normal resting maintenance is. So that's a huge testament to the EPOC stuff, and another reason why I think this interval and CrossFit thing that we're doing is much more effective. So then we can kind of get into, one last thing on the weight gain and performance people is you may want to consider trying to eat as close to bed as possible and generally having a slower digesting protein in your body. So it wouldn't be something like whey protein where it's going to get in and get out really fast. That would be a good protein for you to have post-workout, intra-workout. But a slower digesting protein like food, like meat, or like casein protein. Casein, I don't know. How do you say it? Casein, that one. So yeah, casein protein is a slower digesting protein, but it still isn't going to be as slowly digesting as a meat source would that your body has to break down and process as opposed to a liquid source. Yes?
Isn't casein also good for weight loss? To drink like a casein shake before you go to bed?
Margot?
Yeah, I mean,
I would say no as well.
it's not that significant of a difference that you do whey versus casein that you're gonna lose more weight. It's not significant.
So let's talk food quality. As you guys see, I put it 4th on the list, and isn't the food quality not important, right? You're actually going to get a kick out of one of these examples I give in a second. But as far as quality foods go, I listed a few out, and I'm sure there are others that I'm missing, but I tried to rack my brain and think about it. So I put meat and fish, preferably grass-fed, hormone-free, free range. You guys know all that drill. Eggs, free range. Cheeses, mostly for the weight gain folks. I would not generally recommend cheeses for my weight loss folks. Same with nuts and seeds. There's probably not a whole lot of room in your calorie deficit diet for nuts and seeds if you're trying to lose weight. Veggies, organic, locally, sustainable, all that good stuff. Fruits, also not for weight loss. Fruits are cool if you're trying to gain weight or for performance, because it's going to spike your insulin levels. Rice, Once again, I put brown rice probably better for people trying to lose weight because it's slower digesting, it's lower glycemic index. Whereas white rice might be better for the performance folks that just need to cram carbohydrates into their body so that they have energy to work out. Same with the sweet potatoes, where sweet potatoes are going to be more complex and slower digesting, whereas white potatoes are probably going to digest a little bit faster. And then I put other starches, which I included like quinoa, non-GMO corn, oats, and whole grains. If you have no gluten problem, I have no problem with whole grains as well. And then this is where kind of quality, you got to kind of start thinking about it a little more critically. So I'm going to give you 50 grams of protein, 75 grams of carbs, and 25 grams of fat. And if I tell you just get to those numbers in a meal, and you can do that however you want, this is one option. You could do 2 scoops of whey protein and either 3 donuts or 4 servings of potato chips. So that gets you to approximately these macronutrients. Now I think most of us are smart enough to look at that and be like, yeah, that's probably not that cool. Like, I mean, it sounds like it tastes really good, but we're probably not going to perform better or feel great from that. So the other way that we can get this almost exact same amount of macronutrient breakdown is to have an 8-ounce steak, about 1.5 cups of rice, and about 1.5 cups of veggies. And that would fill your plate up, and you would probably, a lot of the girls in here would probably have trouble eating that much food. I'm sure Straker would not have a problem with that. And I don't have a problem with that either. But you can see that, like, one, it's the same macronutrient profile, but this is where, you know, macronutrients, yes, are the goal as far as gaining or losing weight, but we're going to feel much better, and we're going to feel much more satiated doing it with the beef, the rice, and the veggies. So just kind of a little example there of how macronutrients really aren't everything, even if your chart on your Excel sheet or whatever, your little fitness pal thing, tells you, great work, you kept to the perfect percentages. It's probably not quite perfect. So that wraps it up, except I have 10 other little points, and I'm just going to go through them really quick. And if anyone would like me to go into further detail on any of them, just raise your hand and ask a question. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of fly through these. So, actually, we already discussed 2 of them as part of this. Peri-workout nutrition and the EPOC effects of interval training. So I think we're all cool on those topics. The next one is intermittent fasting. And I was talking a little bit with Devin about this before class. But does anyone else have curiosity or any questions about intermittent fasting?
I just want to do it.
You want to do it? Well, I mean, why would you want to do it? What is the reasoning?
I just always want to try. I don't know. I just see like people doing it. Seem to think it like really makes them feel good once they get past like day 3.
For sure, yeah. That's what I wanted to tell Devin about. He's like, I did it for 1 day and it was so miserable that I stopped.
I think what are the benefits from doing intermittent fasting?
First of all, what is it?
Yeah.
What is intermittent fasting? Okay, let's just go, what is intermittent fasting? Intermittent fasting can be done in a number of different ways. Probably the most common way is to do a 16-hour fast and an 8-hour feeding of each day. So you eat the exact same amount of calories that you would normally eat over the course of maybe a 16-hour eating and 8-hour fast while you sleep, but you're going to cram it into 8 hours. Without getting too sciencey, the primary benefit, as far as body comp goes, would be weight loss. I would not recommend that for somebody trying to gain weight, just because it would be really, really bad and hard for your body to try to cram all those calories that you need to eat into an 8-hour period. The positive side of it, if your goal is to maintain or lose weight and you want to try intermittent fasting, it's supposed to be really good for your body to not have to process food. Give your body a break. Let your organs and digestive system rest. And And that's supposed to be, it's supposed to help a lot on insulin response as well. So anybody that's prone to diabetes or wonky insulin levels and stuff like that, a lot of them are actually halting that process. I've read some articles on this recently, are having success curbing that by doing intermittent fasting. And obviously there's other concerns like what foods you're eating during the eating period. But as far as performance goes, I don't think there's really like a whole lot of benefit to it. And it also makes life really difficult because you have to basically ensure that your workout falls during that 8-hour period where you're eating, because peri-workout nutrition is superseding the importance of all other goals and objectives. So I don't know. That's the basics of it. If you're interested and want to discuss more, I can send you over some resources. Cool. Same with you. All right. So yeah, managing insulin levels for fat loss is another point on here that I was going to say. I think most of that was kind of covered in the lecture. As far as making sure that you're having balanced meals. If you have a meal of strictly carbohydrates and it isn't balanced, that's going to spike your insulin levels, which is going to instigate fat storage. So being able to have balanced meals is going to be crucial as far as keeping your insulin levels intact. Cheat days, that was one of the topics on here. Does anybody want to chat about cheat days at all? No, cool. It's important as well when you're in a calorie deficit to be able to keep tabs on how you're feeling, because when you're not eating enough calories, your testosterone is going to be lower. You're going to be in a catabolic state, which is a state of burning muscle. Much more readily. It's a stressful state for the body to be in. Sometimes moods are affected, and sometimes you don't sleep well, sometimes you sleep too much. So I think it's important that you, if you're going on a calorie deficit diet, that you keep all this stuff in mind, and if you start experiencing any of it, that you're able to kind of reassess and be able to add in some nutrients in different places to kind of combat that issue. Fasted cardio. This is kind of a hot topic. A lot of people are interested in fasted cardio. Should we do it? Should we not? Performance and weight gain folks, definitely not. Weight loss folks, yes, there's probably a place for it. But I think that if you're going to do that, you should probably supplement with some sort of branched chain amino acid beforehand and after. And you should probably make sure that you have a post-workout meal directly after. Because there is a lot of studies out there that have talked about how much muscle you waste trying to exercise in a fasted state. So yes, it will get you shredded, it'll help you lose weight really fast, but you'll probably also lose some muscle. So you kind of have to weigh the risk and reward for that one. If you are interested in doing fasted cardio, come talk to me and I can kind of help guide you into doing it the right way. And yep.
Yeah, I got a question. So if you work out in the 6 a.m. class, would you consider that fasted cardio?
You're doing CrossFit classes? Yeah, I would not recommend doing that fasted in most cases, unless your goal is strictly to lose body fat.
So you would eat something?
Yeah, I would say beforehand you would probably want to have some BCAAs, and then if you don't actually want to eat something, because chances are you're not going to wake up at 5 a.m. or 4:30 a.m. because for you to eat food, it needs to then be digested and processed so it can be used as energy. It's not like immediately upon consuming it, you're like, word, I'm good, let's go, let's do this, right? So I actually, the final topic on here is supplements. And if anyone has any questions on that, so this is a good transition into that. I have been using a product called MAG10, MAG-10. It is a protein and carbohydrate mix. And it's awesome. I take it before my workouts, during my workouts, after my workouts, anytime that I find myself starting to get hungry throughout the day and I just need some nutrition in me, but I don't have time to like run out and get food or whatever, mix up a serving of that. It's relatively expensive, but for what it does, I'm really amped on it, and it's helped me fantastically in helping to lose body fat. And it tastes decent. It's so So the one thing that I don't like about it is that it actually tastes so bad that they give you this this fake lemon syrup that you're supposed to put in it to make it sweet. And when I put the lemon syrup in it, it tastes amazing. Like it tastes like lemonade. But because it's fake lemon syrup, I don't want to use a lot of it. So I find myself battling this every day where I'm like, I could use a little more and make it taste better. So that's kind of your call, whether you want to do that. But I'm not usually a fan of artificial stuff. And I wasn't even intending on using the product this long, but I've been using it now for 8 or 10 weeks, and I've really enjoyed it. So I'm kind of dealing with my hatred of fake artificial lemon syrup, and I'm just continuing to take the product. So
Hey, Dee, how long do you have to take that before your workout for the?
that stuff will start digesting probably within the first 5 minutes. Like,
Really?
yeah, it's really quick. Like, I'll actually be really tired going into a workout, and I'll start drinking it like as I'm warming up.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's some effect as far as like creating warmth in your body and starting to move around that also creates energy. But I find within drinking the shake and with warming up that I'm really ready to go, even if I go into it not feeling ready. And then there's other supplements that you can take too. Is anyone interested in supplement stuff? Yeah.
Yeah.
So like caffeine has been shown in so many different studies to instigate thermogenesis and help calorie burn. One thing that I thought was actually really interesting, and I'm really delving into some actual science here now instead of bro science, but the act of doing interval training, like CrossFit or doing sprints, it does an incredible job of pushing fatty acids out into your body, which caffeine also does. That's where the kind of tie-in is they open and I don't know what the right term I'm looking for is. It like leaches the fatty acids out of your body and makes them free floating. However, apparently sprints and interval training alone are just going to leave the fatty acids like floating around in a hurry in your body, and they're not actually going to be whatever excreted or breathed out or however it is you lose weight. I know there was that, was it Caitlin, was it you who was talking about that post the other day, how it's like you breathe out your fat? Yeah, you don't actually excrete fat, you actually breathe fat out, which was super interesting. It was a TED Talks, I think, or something like that. But anyway, so whatever the process is of getting the free fatty acids from floating around in your body to like getting them out, apparently you need to follow interval or intense training with 10 to 20 minutes of slow state steady training, such as riding a bike or walking, which will then complete the process of letting the fatty acids get out of your body. And if you were to just do your interval training and then go sit up in the car or on the couch and not continue to move around afterwards, that the fatty acids would just absorb back into your body. I read this in 2 different places. I'll need to find the study since I'm now citing science in here. But I thought that was pretty interesting. So 10 to 20 minutes of slow, steady cardio afterwards, and that would be like walking or riding a bike, nice and slow. Apparently does the trick. So caffeine is great for that. Caffeine will form the free floating fatty acids or whatever into your body and then allow them to be burned off. So I think caffeine is a good one. There's a lot of different caffeine tablets and fat burning pills out there. Back in the day there was the ECA stack. I don't know if anyone remembers that, ephedrine, caffeine, aspirin. Coffee's great. Coffee's great, except people tend to put crap in their coffee, which screws up the whole thermogenesis process. So if you tend to put creamer or sugar in your coffee, you're really messing up the whole fat burning process. So coffee's still my preferred number 1, but if you are somebody that can't do black coffee, then there are other options out there. Whey protein's great, the Mag10 product that I talked about. Does anyone have any questions on like specific supplements? Because I could probably sit here and ramble all day long about nothing. Cool, if you have any questions about supplements, let me know. If you ever want like a review of a product or anything. Any other questions about anything?
Yeah, how did you figure out like your epoch and your NEAT?
I estimated it. I completely estimated it. My epoch, I actually, yeah, it's one of those things where you can't possibly know unless you were to wear one of those little like watchy things around all day. I estimated mine, and I actually think I probably underestimated it slightly because I think I can actually lose weight if I eat 3,000 calories, but it just happens really slowly. So I think that my NEAT throughout the day is much higher, especially on certain days. Like Saturday and Sunday, probably not. But during the days where I'm running the gym, and like even being up here and talking to you guys and having to stand, like when you talk about NEAT, the act of standing is substantially more beneficial to NEAT than sitting or lying down. I found out a couple years ago that when I'm existing, lying on the ground or whatever, I'm burning X number of calories. When I sit, I'm burning about 15 to 20 calories an hour more than I do if I'm lying, and if I'm standing, I'm burning 15 to 20 calories an hour more than if I were sitting. So just the act of standing is going to increase your NEAT by 15 to 20 calories an hour throughout the entire day that you're standing and not sitting. So if your goal is fat loss, stand. It's harder, right? I mean, like literally, if I'm standing up here and I'm like, man, my legs are kind of getting tired. I kind of can't wait to sit down right now because it's difficult to stand that long. So yeah.
Segways.
What?
Segways.
Yeah, totally. Segways are better than wheelchairs. Yeah.
It's kind of like a two-part question, but I work in the restaurant business, so I'm walking all the time. So like during the week, some days I like work out and I work, other days I just work, other days I don't work out or work, it's a rest day. So my like calories and macronutrients could vary a lot. I've also read that like throughout the week it's more important to, like if you have one day where you're way too high, you don't need to like balance it out the next day. Just so
I would look at it more along the line. Yeah, I think this will answer your question, but I would look at it more along the lines of thinking about your week. Don't worry about it as like what is Monday, what is Wednesday, what is Friday, but like calculate your entire week. So that's how I came to my numbers, because there are certainly days where my NEAT is way higher than 400 calories, and there's definitely days where my NEAT is lower.
Yeah.
And then there's also days where I don't exercise at all, but when I came up with my numbers and I was like, I exercise, I burn 400 calories and blah, blah, and I burn this many calories, that was pretty much average over the course of the week. That wasn't just like every day I do the exact same thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So on the days that you work and you're walking around a lot, your NEAT is substantially higher. You might even want to include that as exercise. Like I don't even know like how far you walk, but I'm sure throughout going back and forth for 4 or 5 hours, you're probably walking a couple miles. So you might calculate that as exercise and not as NEAT.
So just look at a weekly like.
Yeah, calculate what you theoretically or ballpark figure burn in a week and divide it by 7. Yeah.
If you, on the protein, I feel like it's hard to get enough protein that you're supposed to when you're training. Is there a even or a decent amount that you should have protein powder shakes versus actual food?
Yeah, I would use protein powder shakes in your peri-workout time. I don't think that there should be a need for shakes when you're not in your peri-workout zone. A general recommendation for peri-workout nutrition is pre-workout to have a quarter of your body weight in protein and half your body weight in carbs, and post-workout to do the same. I would actually skew it more to like slightly less than that on the pre side and slightly more than that on the post side. But if you think about it like that, you can get those calories relatively easily from having a whey protein with like some juice or a Gatorade or whatever. Yeah. Anything else? Sweet, you guys are awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk about food. Nice.